All right, mates, welcome back to the channel. JL Scott Fishing. Hope everybody's doing well. We are going to talk a little bit about a request from the live stream the other night on Little Seneca Lake, located in western Maryland. Little Seneca Lake is located in the central region, Central Freshwater Program for Maryland DNR. The regional manager for that is Mark Staley, and they have 3 biologists for that region that covers central Maryland. It's located in a small town called Boyds, Maryland. A lot of people think it's Germantown, but it's actually Boyds, Maryland, in Montgomery County, Maryland. And it's about 500 or so, a little over 505 acres, with a max depth of its mean depth is about 23, 24 feet. Its max depth, I think, is like 68 to 70 feet at its deepest point. But you can kind of see here on the image here on Navionics how this lake kind of sets up. This lake is an electric-only lake in Maryland, like so many. And it's an impoundment reservoir for drinking water for the greater Washington, D.C. area as a backup. It's like an emergency. And for also Northern Virginia. So a lot of people are in a misconception about this lake, because it does not permit gas motors, that it's not pressured. That could not be anything further from the truth, in my opinion, having been out there over 100 times. There are a lot of people that go out there with their trolling motors only, okay, mates? Don't let anybody kid you, because it's really one of the only bodies of water in this part of Montgomery County, really west of D.C., towards riding up the Upper Potomac, as the Upper Potomac goes up towards from Virginia and Maryland to then West Virginia and works its way up. You've got a lot of reservoirs, a lot of lakes up in the western part of Maryland, like Washington County, Allegheny County, Garrett County, all that up towards that wraps around West Virginia, right? And you've got a whole bunch of Baltimore County reservoirs, okay? So a lot of people assume that it's not pressured. It is pretty pressured. Not the whole lake now is not pressured. I will tell you that the predominant areas of this lake that are highly pressured, and this is me in my observance of where people generally are located on the lake every single time, is going to be in 2 sections, primarily around the Black Hills Regional Park. Now, a lot of people refer to this body of water as the Black Hills, because of the regional park. However, it does go by Little Seneca Lake. That is its official name. And most people use Little Seneca Lake. There are 3 access points, primary access points, that are public in a sense, in that regard. Black Hills is the predominant one for most people who are not local. And I will tell you this, in over 100 times that I have been to this lake, and caveat to this is I don't use the Black Hills Regional Park ramp inside here, in that facility. So this observation is solely based on that. But at the other 2 access points, which are located on Route 121, which is a canoe and kayak point with about a half a mile, quarter mile of gravel parking along the road here on both sides, that allows for easy unloading, and basically you will roll your kayak or canoe down to the launch probably about 30 yards, 35, 40 yards. It goes down, so coming back up after a long day can be kind of on you, so just be aware of that if you're dragging, or you don't have 2 people you're not carrying, and all that kind of stuff. The other access point is up here, parking and boat ramp at the top. Now, out of those 2 points, and over 100 times of going and primarily there, I think the first time I went there, I went to the Black Hill Regional Park area just to see the lake. The first time I've been to the lake. I've never seen any other license plates except Maryland and Virginia. So I've never seen anyone else from out of state in the times that I've been there, either on 121 or up at the boat ramp. I actually was at the end of August. I actually was stopped for the first time by a conservation officer who was out doing it. It was in the evening, actually. he didn't, he basically, he was just checking people on the bank, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I talked to him for about 15 or 20 minutes, as I was, organizing my stuff to load up, to leave. And, I asked him that question, and he said the same thing. It's like he very rarely sees anyone from out of state, let alone, another state other than Virginia. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic. It's kind of a hidden place, it's only 500 acres. So it doesn't get tournament, big tournament attention. Doesn't get, and things like that, maybe because of permitting aspects, plus because it's gas, it's electric only. So that kind of like, so a lot of people aren't really aware of the quality of fish that are caught in this body of water. Now, when I alluded to bank fishing, it's important to understand that where you put in a kayak and canoe launch here is the primary. There are a few areas along the trail areas along the Black Hills that you will see bank fishermen, but you primarily will see every evening, spring, summer, early fall, you're going to primarily see these banks right here, up underneath the bridge, where the bridge goes over. People go down into this side, and then people will sometimes walk all the way across the bridge and get down in this area. Those are your primary what I mean by bank, I mean heavily pressured bank fishing. Okay, so keep that in mind if you plan on coming from here, and you want to hit these banks, up in here. Understand that those are highly pressured banks. Okay. Now, from the canoe launch area here, okay, I will tell you this from my experience. I always tend to hit these out. I love these three little areas right here. The biggest bass, all the bass that I've caught in Little Seneca Lake in this section, you've got the dam here, okay? So I break Little Seneca Lake up into like 4 sections of the lake, okay? So when I map it in my notebook, I decide I'm going to go and I'm going to hit a section. Now, if you've got a trolling motor, you've got a little bit more flexibility in getting a long haul, which is all the way up here, okay? If you don't have a trolling motor, I tell people it's like you're basically going to be my section in here and in here, or it's a long paddling day, okay? Now, one of the better trips, though, is to come out of this section here, where you're going to launch your canoe or kayak and head up. Okay, that is a really, really nice paddle for the most part, and then coming back down is a lot easier for you, okay? For me, let's cover a little bit about the history of this lake and what we found here in the last few years, okay? The largemouth bass population is growing both in size, if you look at the electrofishing, both in size category, okay? But the snakehead population is also growing now, okay? And so in 2018 was the first known catch of a snakehead. In 2019, DNR finally located snakeheads in their electrofishing. And in 2020, they found that in the 12 sites that they surveyed, 11 of those sites had snakeheads in the electro study. Okay, so it tells you what happens. Snakeheads are very prolific. Okay, and they're very in my experience, every snakehead that I've caught out of Little Seneca Lake, including the first time I hit certain areas on this lake, have been in this section right here. Now, I know of other people that have gotten snakeheads towards here. There's a section here where you cross the bridge and you come into the parking lot. Okay, in this bridge area right here, this section in here, and then if people that bank fish all through here, there's like down trees coming up. In the middle of the lake, they're dead trees. I've caught a lot of snakeheads in here. Okay, and that electric survey found a 32-inch, 12-pound snakehead. So that tells you, okay, very prolific. Now, when they opened up those snakehead, in the one study, they found empty stomachs. They didn't find anything. However, when one of them was caught, they spit up what is the snakehead forage population. So the snakehead forage population is, of course, sunfish, killifish, right? And perch. So, like, that tells you, okay, when you find out that kind of knowledge, that's what the snakeheads are eating. Why? Because that's pretty much the dominant forage for a local Seneca Lake when you're looking at it from bait matching and matching the hatch, match, okay? And colorations that you're going to use. Custom bait maker. Other custom bait makers I talk to, people that talk to me about primarily fish this lake, what colorations that they want on their baits, right? Well, it doesn't make much sense to throw crawl pattern baits in Little Seneca Lake. Doesn't make much sense to throw blueback herring patterns, right? River herring patterns. It doesn't. They're not there, okay? And so, again, play to your strengths, okay? That the underlying forage species are going to be those sunfish type forage for a lot of the bass, okay? And also the tiger muskie. Tiger muskies are stocked, or have been stocked in the past by Maryland DNR, and they're a great catch. They're just a fun catch in this body of water. A lot of people don't catch a lot of them. They go deep, okay? That's been the key. Most of the people that have caught them have told me that they've come from deeper. I caught mine only one tiger muskie from myself. And all the times I've gone to Little Seneca Lake, and I just happen to get lucky in the shallows. On a really, really nice day in the spring. It's one of those things. So here you can see the depths here, okay? And I will tell you this as a warning. This area in here, in this creek channel area of Little Seneca Lake, will beat you up if you do not have a motor during the summer and during parts of if there's 10 to 15 mile an hour winds, if you look on your phone and it says there are 10 to 12 mile an hour winds, Little Seneca Lake, they're not 10 to 12. They're like 15 to 17. That's what they feel like, okay, here in this section. You do not have any protection, okay, any tree protection, anything. It's kind of like the lake kind of goes down, okay, so that wind comes down, okay, and over. And it is a lot more powerful than what you're going to find on your phone when you launch. So keep that in mind and be careful of that. It will be very, very choppy, very, very deep. Okay. But in this section here of the lake, like so many other sections, okay, again, like I said, I divide this lake up into about 4 sections for me, depending on what I see with the weather, what I'm interested in seeing, whether it's the spawn, whether it's the fall transition. All those things are different. I hit different areas of the lake, okay? And I'll hit those drop-offs, channel breaks, channel swings, all that kind of stuff. You've got sections of this lake, mate. You've got sections, mates, like here, okay, that literally will go from 10 feet to 2 feet. It literally, it's as if they dug straight down like a swimming pool when they built this, okay? And there's a few of those areas that, like, there's no gradual. It's just like 10 feet, and then 2 feet, and then boom, you're at the shoreline, okay? You can see that here. It's 28, 30 feet right here, okay? And it just drops to 10 feet and less. Boom. Again, 20 feet, then boom to 3 feet, okay? And there's a lot of sections like that, okay? And so, for me, these areas right here are full of vegetation and grass. And that can be good, and that also can be bad, because depending on the time of the year. In the spring, early spring, it tends to be good, okay? You're looking at, like, say, if you're looking at 10 feet of water in here, the grass, you're going to start seeing the grass at about 6 feet below your kayak or your boat. That's how thick the grass is. And in this section, snake, you're going to get snake. Snakeheads are living in that grass. Now, when that grass starts to turn, okay, fall into winter, this lake sets up really weird for me as an angler. I could tell you, it's not like it's not like a lot of places I've fished in Virginia, in the sense that the fish in here don't tend to stay shallow, like move back shallow in the fall. Like, they tend to move out towards the points. This is a prolific point right here, okay? And then this point right here, okay? As well as this one over here on the other side of the dam, as well as up in here. Okay. And the reason being, I think, again, not a scientist, is potentially the snakeheads. Just they don't want to deal with them. Like, and it's not an invasive. It's not just kind of pushing them out. Or maybe the snakeheads have consumed predominant the forage species, and so they're being pushed out, and then the bass are trim. I don't really know what that is. It'd be an interesting study, but that's what I've noticed. Is this grass starts to die out in here, and then you start to catch. So I posted. We got the last time out was about 11 pounds. We were only out for about 2.5 hours, and it was a little over 11 pounds of bass. Okay, and the primary crankbaits for that were this crankbait right here. Okay. And this one right here. Okay. And the reason why, there's going to be a pattern to this, mates, for you for this lake. Okay. Look at that pattern. Okay. And then look at that pattern in that bait. It's that yellow. Okay. Very similar. Right. Square bill, fall transition, mimics the perch inside Little Seneca Lake. Okay. This is a great bait in the spring, but also right now in the fall transition. I will tell you, I'm just going to give everyone a piece of advice. You can take it for what it's worth if you're going to go out there. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to insult you with your own confidence baits. Most of the people that I talk to, and I agree, Little Seneca Lake sets up as more of a finesse lake. It does not mean that you cannot catch power fish your way to a big bag. It just means that for some reason, these fish are not hitting your normal, like that you go everywhere, that you're just going to show up and throw the chatterbait, for example, and you're going to catch a bag. These fish are weird. That's all I can tell you compared to my experience of fishing Frederick, Burke, Mooney, Jennings Randolph. I mean, all others in the region. The fish here are weird. I can't explain it, okay? So don't be shy from packing with you a bunch of finesse, drop shot. Trust me, drop shot is killer on these points, especially right now. I know that may sound antithetical to a lot of people that say, this time of year, but I'm telling you right now, you throw a drop shot worm, drop shot bait. These are the colors right here for me that have caught me bass on Little Seneca. They like that brown pumpkin, green pumpkin. They like that green color. I don't have one with me right now, but the black and blue is not nearly as prolific. Black has worked with a ribbon tail, black with gold. Ribbon tails are actually highly effective on that lake historically for me. But not so much when you think of like your typical black and blue. Just is not, done it for me there. But certainly give it a shot. And you're playing a lot of these like areas shallow, okay, like shallower. What I'm gonna mean by shallow for this, I'm talking a lot. You will see a lot of people that'll set up out here in 35 feet of water during different times of year. Okay, you do not have a striper population. You do not have a lot of those, but there will be bass. There will be bass that live year round out here. I mean, there are. People have caught in some big ones in these areas deep. So you have to also be prepared that if that's where they're still, if they haven't fully, for me, when we were out, they were in deeper water, 12 to 15 feet of water. They were not moved up. So they had either already moved up and moved back out, or they hadn't moved up. If you subscribe to that point of view, that they're going to move shallow to continue feeding up in October and November before winter. They just we didn't catch anything inside those areas, okay? That was all in 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet of water, fishing from back against, okay? Here, in 20 feet of water, fishing in, okay? here. It says 45. I think it's about 25 feet of water right in. Let me open that back up again by that bridge. See how deep that drops to 45 feet? So you're sitting right in here and then hitting in here. It's still 8 feet of water, mates. So you can bring that towards the bank and then bring it back to your boat, bring it back to your kayak. Especially, that's what this was about. Okay? And the classes are there. This is the thing about it is I wish I could have pulled it up for you guys. Maybe I'll post it on the Facebook page of the surveys, the graphs that show you the number of fish they're catching per hour based on their length. Okay? And you will see that there's a significant population in there in that 2.5, 2.25 to 2.75 or 3 pound fish in this lake. And there are big uns in this lake. 5 pounders. Okay? 5.13. Okay? And I know there are fish bigger than that that have been caught. You can check out Cornell's videos. Check him out on YouTube. That's his home lake as well. From I believe he lives in Germantown. He's got a whole library full of just everything. Over the years, I think he first started covering Little Seneca Lake back in 2012. So you've got a whole gamut of spring, summer, everything that you can take a look at. One rod, one reel. Everybody knows who that is on YouTube. It's been around forever. It's got started. I mean, I'm not gonna say he started on Little Seneca Lake, but it was one of the first in this part of this of the region that he covered a few times as well. So you can check all that out for on the water stuff. But that's primarily what has been successful for this lake is in terms of right now. I mean, I'll have an update when I go back out. Now in the spring, because I really don't know how it's going to set up for the fall again this year. I know the way it set up last year, and it was crankbaiting, it was drop shotting, it was slowing it down. It wasn't like the power all, but it depends on what the weather's going to be like. You're going to have wind. I pulled out one, I really like this pattern right here as a trailer for things. It actually has a yellow perch type tip to it on the tail. This one's been really, really effective there. A few of the other baits for here that I love in the early morning, again, whether or not they'll set up for you in the fall really predicates on the weather, right? Is one of the better baits this year for me, for Little Seneca, for topwater. Mimics the forage exactly. This is a spook. It's a bluegill pattern. You're going to notice here in the next minute or so the trend, okay? Bluegill pattern. Why? This is the primary forage going on in Little Seneca Lake, okay? It just is. And so you want to make sure, okay? So there's your bluegills. Now, so I have it. I'll match it up. If this isn't working, okay, this, again, 2 fish last time I was out right here. It's a bluegill pattern, lipless crankbait. You can still throw a lipless crankbait in the fall. Don't believe the knock that it's only a springtime bait, okay? They will chase it, the rattle, the noise that they're feeding up. They're going to like it, okay? So don't buy into that whole thing. Always make sure that you are willing to try, because just because somebody tells you something works on this body of lake or someone's talking about something doesn't mean it applies to your body of water, mates. It doesn't. Some of these things are very, very unique. And the other one that matched up my dozer right here, this square bill right here, matched the perch. Look at this one right here. These are both custom painted, okay? Again, okay? Like the noise, like the rattle. Noise, rattle, 2 different patterns. What are they feeding up on? If they're not feeding up on the perch, they're going to be feeding up on sunfish, bluegill, anything reminiscent of that is what they're going to be feeding up on. These are just sick baits. I could take 3 baits out there, mates, and I've done that many times, okay, and catch fish, okay? Got to dial it in. Now, you guys know primarily there are things that I take. I primarily love jigs on a river, but I will tell you, have not been very successful with a deep jig bite or even a shallow jig bite on balance compared to finesse fishing and crankbait or early morning buzz or spook. Okay, early in the morning. That's during the summer, late in the springtime. Not so much in the fall, because for the most part, they're not up, in the water column. Like, they're not in shallow water yet. So they're not up in the water column to get that topwater bait, right? And, if you're not seeing anything happening with a lot of the smaller fish forage and stuff like that. But I will tell you one jig that I've had successful on. And again, a lot, when you guys know this, okay? When you catch bass on jigs, they tend to be bigger bass. You can go skunk for an hour, and then you'll get a big one. And that's just jig right here. I'm going to try and get it so you can see the color on that. But that color matches the forage, okay? And that hinge is very similar to this, which is why that hair is on there, okay? And that is not a black and blue jig. None of that stuff I throw in Untitled Potomac works. It just doesn't. So that's just one of the, the only successes I've had. Other people are going to have to give it a try in that regard. And then out in here, in this area here, and up in here, okay? Again, you could see these guys. You guys know how to break this stuff down. All the points. You want to hit all primary and secondary points this time of year first. Find out if they are there first, then go shallow. Whereas you probably in the spring will be shallow first, then back out on the points. That's how I break this lake down. There are spots that guys have, I could tell you, that they will just literally sit on. Because I've seen them out there, same guys all the time, same local guys. And so one of the most popular areas is up. Okay, you're coming out of Black Hills, or you're coming down from the bridge, and you're going from this section. Okay, and then you're going to hit all in through here. You've got a bunch of homes, housing, townhouses, all that good mess up in this area. Riprap, you got a whole bunch of stuff up in here, and they're just pockets, okay? Pockets, points in areas to hit. If they're moving in shallower, you got some banks, sloping banks that are prime in this section of the lake. But it's a haul. I mean, it's a haul if you're going from here, and even if you have a motor, it's a haul from here. It's still a good ways, okay? So just keep that in mind. Take an extra battery if you're going to be running all day long, because that's what's going to happen. And I will show you here. Let's see if I can pull it up here. I'm not sure what the depth is, but you got right here one of my favorite spots to hit, depending on if there's a lot of people, I don't do it. This creek channel right here, mates, don't sleep on this creek channel, okay? Do not sleep on this creek channel. Right here in sight of the launch, okay? Off about 30, 40 yards from the launch in deeper water, you can catch some biggins suspended. The second one I would recommend to you is up here by the boat ramp. Okay, you're launching this boat ramp right here. There's a spot right here, 28. Look at the change in depth in this spot right here. You got 19s and 20s and 16s and 16s and 15s and 16s and 16s, right? And it drops to 28, 23, and 6. Sit right here. Just sit right here and throw the drop shot. Just sit right here and throw your ribbon tail. Okay? Wacky rig, ribbon tail worm, drop shot, something, get down there. Okay? That's where I landed a 3.5 pounder with a jig. Okay? Get right in there. Just sit on there and just lay it down and play it. Okay? And if you're running out of here, what I was running out of here, check that spot with your graph. Check it out first as you're making your way back down to other water. Just kind of check it out and mark it so you know kind of, hey, what's the activity look like on it? That's what you want to do. That's just some of the, and that's where that baby right there last week, okay, also closer to that boat ramp. came in with that jerk bait. All right, mates.